They stand beneath the streetlight without facing each other. The distance between them feels intentional, measured. Angelina Vale breaks the silence first, surprised by the steadiness of her voice. "You keep saying soon," she says. "What does that mean?" Charles Smith does not answer immediately. He never does. The pause feels like instruction. When he speaks, his voice is calm, precise. "It means you're asking the right questions," he says, as if that alone were sufficient. Angelina exhales slowly. That's not an answer. She doesn't turn to look at him. She doesn't need to. You take your time. You let people fill the silence for you. Is that the rule? A faint shift beside her. Not movement, attention. "No," Charles replies. "That's a consequence. The rule is simpler." Another pause. "I never close distance that isn't offered." The words settle heavily. Angelina's pulse quickens despite herself. "So everyone who reacts," she says carefully, "they choose it?" The idea tastes dangerous the moment she speaks it aloud. "Yes," Charles answers without hesitation. Every step closer, every breath held, every moment of stillness. His tone remains neutral. Consent doesn't require touch. Angelina finally turns her head slightly, not enough to see him fully. "And if someone doesn't offer it?" she asks. "If they walk away?" "They remain intact," Charles says, unchanged. Then, quieter, "They forget me." The statement carries no bitterness, only certainty. Angelina frowns. "That's not true." Her voice tightens. "I've seen what happens after. They don't forget. They just don't understand what they're missing." For the first time, something like amusement touches his voice. "Understanding isn't required," Charles says. "Only restraint." He pauses. Most people confuse the two. Angelina folds her arms loosely, grounding herself. "Then tell me the rest of the rules," she says. "If I'm already inside this, I want to know where the edges are." Silence stretches. Longer than before. When Charles speaks again, he is closer but still untouched. "Very well," he says. "Rule 1. I do not pursue." Angelina nods slowly. "I noticed." A beat. "Rule 2. I do not take," Charles continues. "I receive what is offered, and only as long as it is offered." His voice lowers slightly. The moment hesitation becomes fear, "I withdraw." Angelina absorbs this, tension threading through her chest. "And the last rule?" she asks. Charles hesitates. The pause feels heavier than the others. "The final rule," he says, "is the only one you control." Angelina's breath catches. "Which is?" "You must decide," Charles replies, "whether waiting is nourishment or erosion." The streetlight flickers once. Angelina feels the weight of the choice settle into her body, precise and unavoidable. She doesn't answer yet. Charles steps back, not away, just enough to restore distance. "Think carefully," he says softly. Angelina does not move right away. The pause is deliberate now, chosen. "You say you don't pursue," she says evenly, "but you place yourself where pursuit becomes inevitable." Charles considers this. The silence feels like a hand held just above skin. "I choose locations," he replies. "People choose direction." His voice is calm. "You arrived here on your own." She almost laughs. It comes out as a breath instead. "You make stillness feel like invitation," Angelina says. "That's not neutral." "No," Charles agrees. "Neutrality would be careless." A pause. "Restraint requires intention." Angelina turns more fully now, enough to see the line of his shoulder, the edge of his profile still softened by shadow. "And what happens," she asks, "if someone intends more than you allow?" Charles answers without turning. "Then I leave." The certainty in his tone removes any drama from the statement. Desire that demands becomes destructive. Angelina's jaw tightens. "You say that like it's a moral choice." "It is a survival choice," Charles replies. "For them, a beat. And for me." The admission lands heavier than she expects. "So you can lose control," Angelina says quietly. Charles does not deny it. "Control isn't the absence of hunger," he says. "It's the decision not to resolve it." Angelina studies the space between them. Inches, uncrossed. "And if I decided," she asks carefully, "to cross that distance?" The air tightens. Charles's voice lowers. "Then you would be breaking the rules," he says. "Not mine, yours." She feels the truth of it immediately. The rules were never about obedience. They were about authorship, choice disguised as denial. Angelina takes one slow step, not closer, not farther. Sideways. The movement is subtle, controlled, a test. Charles reacts instantly by doing nothing. No shift, no retreat. The restraint sharpens, focused entirely on her decision. Interesting, he murmurs. You're learning to move without advancing. Angelina's pulse steadies. I'm learning where I end, she replies, and where you don't begin. For the first time, Charles turns his head slightly toward her. Still no full reveal. That boundary, he says, is the only reason this works. And if I decide I don't want it to work? Angelina asks. Charles's answer is immediate. Then it won't. A pause, softer. That's the rule you keep overlooking. The realization settles slowly. He is not trapping her. He is refusing to absolve her of responsibility. Angelina exhales. You don't want victims, she says. You want participants. Charles inclines his head a fraction. I want consent that survives desire. The streetlight hums overhead. Somewhere, a car passes. The world continues, indifferent to the negotiation happening in its margins. Angelina feels the pull again, not toward him, but toward the rules themselves, the structure, the clarity, the danger of choosing knowingly. What happens when someone learns the rules faster than you expect? Charles is silent longer this time. When he speaks, his voice is quieter. Then, he says, the balance changes. Angelina nods slowly. She doesn't smile. She doesn't move. She simply stands within the space she's chosen. I won't cross, she says. Not tonight. Charles steps back a fraction, restoring the distance with care. Good, he replies. Then you're still choosing. They remain where they are. The space between them intact, but charged. Angelina Vale breaks the silence carefully. You say the rules protect us both, she says. Tell me who they protect you from. Charles Smith does not answer at once. The pause feels heavier now, less instructional. When he speaks, his voice is lower. From forgetting why restraint matters, he says. From confusing permission with need. Angelina nods slowly, and the people who don't learn that distinction? Her gaze stays forward. What happens to them? They burn through themselves, Charles replies. Quickly, loudly. A beat. They ask for endings instead of understanding. Angelina feels the warning settle into her spine. You've seen it happen. Yes, Charles says. Nothing more. The finality of the answer tells her everything he isn't saying. She shifts her weight again, testing the ground beneath her feet. The movement is small, intentional. If someone wanted an ending, she asks, would you give it to them? The air tightens. Charles turns slightly away, restoring a careful angle. No, he says. Endings are not something I offer. Angelina's voice softens. Even if they begged? Especially then, Charles replies. Begging is where choice dissolves. Angelina studies the space between them again. Inches feel different now, less abstract, more deliberate. She understands how easily proximity can become a demand if intention slips. Then why stay, she asks. Why not disappear entirely? Charles exhales slowly. Because restraint only exists in the presence of temptation, he says. Without it, there are no rules, only absence. The logic unsettles her. It is too clean, too precise. So this, Angelina says, gesturing subtly between them, is practice. For you, Charles corrects gently, and for me. Angelina takes a breath she doesn't need. Then let me ask something dangerous, she says. What happens if I stop wanting? Charles stills completely. The silence stretches, taut and focused. When he speaks, his voice is quiet. Then you will walk away, he says, and I will let you. The answer surprises her. It shouldn't. She nods once. And if I don't? Then, Charles says carefully, you will need to decide whether wanting is something you control or something you offer. Angelina feels the line draw itself clearly at last. The rules are not barriers. They are mirrors. She takes a single step forward, not closing the distance, just enough to feel the shift. Her heart beats steadily. This is not impulse. It is choice. Charles reacts instantly by stepping back the same measure, preserving the gap with precision. The restraint feels surgical. Angelina stops. The test is complete. She smiles faintly, not with satisfaction, but with understanding. You would leave, she says. Not a question. Yes, Charles replies, the moment restraint stops being mutual. The clarity steadies her. Then looks forward again. Then I won't cross, she says, not because I can't, because I won't. Charles inclines his head, just enough to acknowledge the decision. That, he says, is the first rule fully learned. The streetlight flickers softly above them. The city hums on, unaware of how close something came to changing. Angelina feels no disappointment, only a deeper awareness of the power in withholding motion. As Charles turns away, restoring distance without disappearing, Angelina understands the final truth of restraint. It only works when both sides are willing to stop.